So I'm trying to keep it easy, although Freddie has encouraged me to bounce this thing off the red line, but oh my goodness. Oh, did you see that? I gotta go back. This is arguably the most famous 911 GT3 in the world, or maybe at least the 9921. Obviously, this is the Adam LZ Matt Armstrong, now Tavares GT3, and it's in my possession for the time being. The gang are all in London. They're all in London for Goodwood. I have the car, and I've been absolutely enamored with it. But first, let me tell you a little story. I've never been a Porsche guy. I've never really fallen in love with the brand, but oddly enough, the Carrera GT is probably my favorite car of all time. And so here I am with this 911 GT3, this being, of course, a manual car, and I'm stunned. And let me tell you what happened. Something changed. About a year and a half ago, January 2022, a bunch of us guys went out to get some breakfast. And in the middle of breakfast, we noticed somebody sitting in the cafe, and it was none other than Chris Harris. The gang was in town, they were in Florida, they were shooting some Top Gear stuff, and they just so happened to be at the exact same cafe that we were at in the morning, and it was one of the coldest days in Florida. So after they were done, they were paying, as they were heading towards the exit, some of us couldn't help ourselves. We went over, we said hello, he was extremely nice, we took pictures with him, and there was, outside in the parking lot, there were about 25, 30 supercars parked out there. And amongst this sea of really, really exotic cars, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, etc., one of the first GT3s in Florida was there as well. And it was my friend's car, who shares the same last name as Chris Harris. So they started talking. My friend also happens to be from the UK, and they started bonding over this particular car. Chris Harris had one on order. My friend Matt, he got his. And of all the stuff in that parking lot, it made me wonder, Chris Harris didn't give two craps about anything else in there. This was the car that he had his eye on. So it really started kind of setting off some signals in my head, thinking, what am I missing? And now I figured it out. So let's go over this car. Obviously, this is the Adam LZ car. It was crashed into, not by Adam, but by someone else at the tail of the dragon in Tennessee. Fortunately, Adam is alive. He's lived to tell the story. And it ended up in the hands of Matt Armstrong. Matt rebuilt the car with the help of Jack. Jack builds it along with Matt's father, Tony. And the build came out beautifully. The car looks as good as new. You look at it from every angle and you can't tell that anything's been done. I love the gold wheels, and that's a Matt Armstrong specialty. I love these HREs. Let's take a look over here. Let's go over the design cues of the GT3. Now, obviously, we know it's wider, it's lower, it's got a track purpose-built suspension. This ultraviolet looks freaking crazy. I think this is the ideal color for a car like this. We know it's a Porsche, but it's a GT3, so it's allowed to be loud, okay? And it has to stand out. So this color combo with these yellow calipers, awesome touches all around. The very, very well-known swan neck wang, okay? This is not your typical wing, this is a wang. And the GT3 RS's wang is even bigger. It's like literally this tall. I just so happened to see a GT3 RS the other day, and it's unbelievable how much wider the wing on that car is and how much taller it is. And that is a fully automatically adjustable DRS wing. This is manually adjustable over here. Out back, we've got blacked out badging, and then this right here, a little party trick, is a RSR titanium exhaust. Now, Matt, if you're watching, this thing is freaking loud, okay? I'm not so sure I'd ever install one of these on my car personally, but it's loud and it howls. It sounds incredible when you are full tilt, 9,000 RPM, but oh boy, is it not daily friendly. Having said that, what do I think of the styling overall of the 911 GT3? I think overall, this is one of the coolest looking sports cars on the market, bar none. I think a standard 911, the base or the S, looks a little generic, a little plain. Even the turbos look a little subdued, but when you look at the 911 GT3 in all of its insane glory, I think this is the way all 911s should look. So having said that, let's take a look at the interior of this car. Inside the GT3 is a very interesting affair. It's not as stripped out or bare bones as you think it would be. Yes, we don't have back seats any longer, and yes, Adam Elzy did install a roll cage. We've got a manual transmission. We've got an extra pedal, which I'm really not sure what's going on with that. I'll figure it out. It's only $250,000. But you've got toggles here. You don't have traditional buttons, and unlike modern day Porsches that would have touch sensitive buttons over here, there's nothing here. So your AC is controlled by toggles, up and down. You've got a few knobs over here for volume and some other adjustments. And then you've got your active exhaust, which no longer works because of the RSR titanium exhaust here. You've got your active dampers, which still does work. And then, you know, traction control, fully off, partially off, and hazards. Cup holder, as you can see. Parking brake. You've got some functionality on the steering wheel, very standard level of functionality. You can kind of adjust a few menus on your cluster, volume knob, voice assistant, Bluetooth, back button, and that's really about it. The most important functions are right here, and that would be the drive mode selector. From basic to sport and sport plus. Sport and sport plus engages the auto rev matching for you as well. So really, you can jump into this interior and you really know what's going on. This screen is absolutely stunning. I'm gonna turn this on right now just so you can see the screen. And it is wide, it's really responsive, it does everything very, very quickly. The nav looks fantastic on it. It loads super quick. It's not what you would see in some of the Audis, for example. So the user interface is also different than what you would see on an Audi. So you've got a handful of settings over here in your home menu: vehicle settings, phone settings, media nav, general settings as well. There's also over-the-air updates you can perform. You've got your sport chrono display, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, etc., etc. And then this is your other screen over here where you can kind of see some of your favorites. You know, you can see information from your phone, your nav, and your media. Again, very simple display, very simple interior. Everything is very easily laid out. There's plenty of space here. This is also functional. USB ports over here. There's not really a whole lot to complain about. For a race car, essentially, for a balls-to-the-wall sports car made for the street, this thing's actually very livable. I will, however, say that these bucket seats are crazy firm, and getting in and out of them over these side thigh bolsters, it's a bit of a pain. It's not the easiest car to get in and out of. Luckily, I'm pretty thin, so I'm not that bothered by it. But for the most part, I think some people, especially if you're of a certain size, you might not like these seats. And personally, I would spec the 18-way seats. I believe they're 18-way. I would save some money. Wouldn't get these seats. Otherwise, I think it's time to drive this thing, because the way this car goes, it's completely unlike anything I've ever driven. I've driven so many exotics over the past few months now, and years in general, and obviously I own a McLaren 570S, so this is an interesting car for me to compare all that to. And really, this is one of the best cars that I've ever driven in my life. All right, we are off to the races. So, I don't know if you can tell, but it's loud in here. It's just, it's the exhaust. And again, I'm sorry, Matt. I'm sorry, Freddie. I would never. I like a lot of usability out of my cars. I daily drive my McLaren, and I don't like a car that's obnoxiously loud. I like a loud car, but I'd like to shut this. I like to shut it off whenever possible. And unfortunately, this doesn't allow me to do that. But it does sound insane. it sounds absolutely ballistic. But overall, though, I have to say, I've heard stock ones and they sound incredible. I've heard aftermarket ones with a valved exhaust and they just sound so beautiful. This is one of the best sounding cars on the market by far. 9,000 RPM, just it howls. There we go. Woo, 0 to 60 on a manual car, you can do it in about 3.3, maybe a little better, who knows. Quarter mile, trap speed, 125 in the low 11s. The PDK will be faster across the board for all of those for obvious reasons, but you don't want the PDK. You know, you can get close to 130 miles per hour in a trap on a PDK in the high 10s, but again, why? You know, why? Because this is freaking crazy. This is an amazing gearbox. I want to talk about this gearbox for a second. This has the tightest H pattern I have ever experienced. It's about this big. I've driven a lot of manual transmission cars over the years, and I currently actually I recently purchased a G82 M4, which is nowhere near as tight as this. It's decent, but nothing like this. And every gear feels like it clicks into place, almost like a gated transmission. It's the craziest feeling with this gearbox, and I'm sometimes lost for words when I try to describe it because it is just so sensational. The clutch is light. Feedback is not that great on the clutch, and that's because it's completely unsprung, or it doesn't feel like it's sprung. But what the clutch lacks in feedback, it makes up for. There's a decent travel, there's a decent catch point, but with that catch point comes revs. So really lightweight flywheel on this car. The revs go up and drop very quickly. In fact, if you're driving it in the standard mode with the rev matching off, you've got to be really careful how slow you let off that clutch or how quickly you shift, because if you keep the clutch down too long, the revs drop very quickly. And here we go, we're going into a turn, and oh my God, this car is so flat through the corners. It's so composed, and I do have the dampers in the stiffest setting. I'm in sport, not track. I don't want to get too crazy with this car. I'll be honest, I'm a little anxious driving this car sometimes because it's not mine. It's been crashed prior. And I don't want to be the next infamous person to do something. So I'm trying to keep it easy, although Freddie has encouraged me to bounce this thing off the red line. But oh my goodness. Oh! I gotta go back. Pardon the interruption, but in a bit of a vlog style, we came across a GT3 RS, the new one, a 992 GT3 RS, and we kind of lost our minds there a little bit. That was pretty cool, but I don't even remember what I was talking about. So anyways, we're going through another bend in third gear, and this thing, oh my God, the grip is sensational. On top of that, these Cup 2s are shot. They're shot. I had to service the car, and believe it or not, this car's never been serviced, but I had to service the car, and it included service 2, which is oil and spark plugs, and it easily failed the tire inspection. They're about 3 mil rear, 4 in the front. So yeah, they're pretty bad, but despite all of that, the chassis is sublime. This is one of the best handling, if not the best handling cars I've ever driven. I thought the 296 GTP, the Ferrari with the Fiorano package, I thought that was incredible. This might top it. This might top it. Keep in mind the weight of this car too. It's 3,200 pounds, and that's with fluids and everything. So this is a triumphant achievement in a modern day car, a sports car, not weighing as much as an elephant. We've got things like AMGs, the C-Class AMG, that's going to weigh as much as a Range Rover. It's absurd. It's not even funny anymore. But Porsche's managed to actually shave like 30 pounds off of the previous GT3 compared to this one. It makes no sense. But nonetheless, this thing handles like a dream. It's on rails. The suspension, put it in comfort mode, and it does free up a little bit. The untenses. It's less anxious. The steering feedback is absolutely insane. On top of that, the response is, I mean, you flick the steering wheel even the slightest bit, you're the other lane. So it's unlike any other cars that you've driven, unlike a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or even a McLaren. The McLaren comes close, the 570 and the 600 LT, they come close, but they're not quite as fidgety as this. You know, my steering inputs, even this, which is relatively little, the car is just darting left and right. It's absolutely incredible. This is one of the best, if not the best handling cars I've ever driven. Hopefully I get to enjoy an RS sometime soon, and maybe the guy with the black RS will see this video and offer me up his car. My question with the GT3 is it possible to daily drive this car? I put about 50 miles on the car, 60 or so, and at first my answer was no. But then I thought about it, and well, what would I change? And all the things that I would change about this car, I could change just by custom ordering one through Porsche. So I wouldn't necessarily daily drive this car, but if I were to order one from Porsche with a standard exhaust, with the standard seats, yeah, actually you can definitely daily drive this. The front boot's actually really nice. There's plenty of space there, especially to go grocery shopping, much like the McLaren, in fact. So yeah, this car, I would say, passes the daily drivability test without a doubt. In short, it's obvious that I'm pretty enamored with this car. It is, you know what, Freddie and I, we were having a conversation about how crazy and how cool this car is, and he put it best. He said, this is what our 18-year-old brain imagined every sports car to be. He is absolutely correct. In my head, when I thought of, when I was 18 years old, in my head, when I thought of a 350Z, this is what I thought of. This was like, oh, it's a sports car, it's a race car, boom, 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 and going through the gears and all these crazy noises. And then I bought a 350Z, and as great as it was, it's not quite what you expected. And then, you keep going and going, and you're in search of the perfect sports car. And I think this is it. I really genuinely believe that this is the very, very ideal thought of a sports car that we all had as kids growing up. From the first time that you think of a sports car and you make these sounds with when you're 7 years old and you make all these engine noises with your mouth, etc. And then you sit somewhere and you're just rowing a pretend gearbox. This is that car. Modern day cars, they are so reliant on PDK, dual clutch transmissions, 8-speed automatics from ZF, etc., that really I feel like the genuine sports car, or the craft of making a genuine sports car or even track car, has been a little bit lost. I think the GT3 hits all the right spots in every single performance category. This is a car you can take to the track as is from the showroom floor, and it won't skip a beat on you. It really won't. And boy, does it look good doing it too. And this interior is so functional. It doesn't beat you up. These seats beat you up, but the suspension is actually still pretty darn good. And it's very livable. For about $200,000, assuming you can even get one for that money, for that cost, the GT3 is the ideal track car. It's the ideal weekend car. This thing is so hyperactive. It's like dealing with a hyperactive child. It's always on. It never lets off. From the twitchy steering to the incredible exhaust noise to the sensitive throttle, everything. Everything. This car's always on, and if you're looking for that in a sports car, if you're looking for that in a weekend car, this is the ultimate experience. So having said that, if you are a Porsche fanatic, if you like GT3s, if you like track cars, if you like sports cars, race cars, heck, if you like any car, please like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.